Well, good afternoon. My name is Peter Annister. I'm the Policy Director for Michigan Economic Development Corporation. And being the fifth speaker today, I don't know that I'm going to tell you anything that any of the other speakers haven't touched on, but the reason that I'm up here today is to really emphasize the role the state is going to play moving forward on this initiative. And basically, I have been tasked to lead a statewide team that includes Michigan Department of Transportation and then the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, along with MEDC and what we do with economic development, to really build a strategy for transportation, distribution, and logistics in order to promote job creation and investment in Michigan. And this really fits nicely into what we are doing at the MEDC and what we're trying to do as a state with kind of our new thinking in economic development. And the first one of those items is really to try to build on the assets that we already have in our state. So instead of going out and trying to chase the next big thing, we want to take a look at what we do well in Michigan, what assets we have in Michigan already, and how do we build on that and make that a competitive strength for our state. And this initiative, this transportation, logistics, distribution, fits very nicely into that opportunity. There's plenty of short-term wins. We have capacity available in our state now. We've got a long-term vision for some infrastructure things that we need to do to kind of build on that. But it really fits nicely into this idea of let's find out what we're doing well in Michigan and try to build on that. The second thing is we're really trying to take a more regional approach in how we do economic development in our state. And I think this really fits nicely into that initiative as well. And part of that is to recognize that different regions in our state do have different assets and different priorities that we need to focus on. I think this initiative is going to essentially touches on all of our regions, but there's different ways that each one of those regions is going to be able to plug into this initiative. So I think that's another good fit. The third thing is we're really trying to take a more economic gardening, is the term I'll use, approach. And what that means for us in this context is to really help our existing Michigan companies grow, invest, and create opportunities for them. That started with some of the tax changes that have already been passed by the legislature and signed by the governor. I think those are going to continue. But another piece of that economic gardening idea is to actually, as much as we can, go out and talk and listen to our businesses and try to find out what barriers they're facing to their growth. And this logistics and transportation, as we've heard, is a big cost driver for a lot of our companies in Michigan. So if we can find ways to help bring down those costs or make that process more efficient, that really is going to be a driver for us in Michigan to grow and create jobs. So when Mr. Rader was describing some of his issues that he's faced, I've jotted all those down here. But that's really what we're trying to do is listen to our companies and say, what is some of the barriers you're facing? Around this initiative, it's obviously logistics and what we can do there, but we're really going to try to look at all these challenges that our businesses are facing and find ways to help them grow. Now, to do that, we want to build on the work that has already been done, I think, over several years by various groups. We've mentioned the Great Lakes International Trade and Transportation Hub, which is a group from MSU and Prima Civitas and our Canadian partners. They've done a lot of research. We have a group from the Detroit Chamber called TransLinked that has also been quite active and trying to identify what assets and where we can build in Southeast Michigan. There's a group called the Great Lakes Gateway, which is led by Dr. Michael Belzer out of Wayne State, that has really tried to promote this kind of rail corridor between Halifax and Michigan, and how do we build on that asset. So as the state team, we don't want to come in necessarily and try to reinvent the wheel. I mean, these guys are the experts. I'm pretty sure everyone on this panel probably knows more about logistics than I do. But we want to take all this work that's already been done out there, try to build on that, and create a strategy and a vision for Michigan, and to get the word out that we're going to be a player in this area, and that we've got assets in our state, and we're going to use them, and we're going to use those to benefit our companies, to benefit our region, to benefit our state. So it's pretty exciting. I think, as some people have mentioned, we have a lot of assets already in our state. I think we can really get some short-term wins. There's capacity that's already available. We've heard that some of the other kind of Midwest trade freight yards, I'm not sure what they call them, intermodal hubs, are seeing some capacity issues, that there's opportunity now for us in Michigan to say, hey, right now we can help provide a benefit to you by shifting some of those capacity to Michigan, because we have room to grow in that area. The strategy is really going to include, short-term, medium-term, long-term goals. We're going to develop an action plan, and I use that term action, to really drive at what needs to be done, who's kind of taking responsibility for moving forward on those initiatives. So we have this kind of one vision, one strategy, one plan that all these different groups are working towards to help really promote our state and benefit our companies, essentially, our job creators. We're also going to create a marketing and branding campaign. And I think it's been mentioned a few times that GLIF is probably not the moniker we want to use going forward. But we really need to find a campaign that we can brand Michigan, brand our assets, really provide and create some marketing materials that we can use for all of our economic developers, all our businesses out there, so they can gain a quick understanding of what the opportunities are here in Michigan to really move this initiative forward. The final piece of a strategy is a timeline. We want to put that together so we're all kind of working towards the same goals. This is something that's a priority for the governor, for Mike Finney, who's our CEO at MEDC. So I think we're going to be fairly aggressive in what we're trying to do. Obviously, there's some longer-term needs that we have with our infrastructure that are not going to be done overnight, but those are going to be part of that long-term strategy and that action plan on what we need to do. The strategy is going to be comprehensive, and it's going to include all forms of transportation, air, rail, road, maritime. We're going to look at all of those, what the capacity are, what the barriers are, what we need to do to kind of move forward for each one of those areas. It's a regional strategy, obviously. This is not just going to benefit Michigan. Obviously, Ontario can benefit, obviously Northern Ohio, Northern Indiana. These are all going to be players as part of this strategy to help develop this in the best and most efficient manner that we can. And at the end of the day, the desired result is to really create jobs in Michigan, and I think this is going to happen really in three different ways. The first is if we create opportunities within this supply chain network, and I think somebody mentioned that basically 94% of the goods that pass through Port Huron are just passed through in our state. We got to find a way to get some of that 94% to stop in Michigan, and we can add some value add to what we're doing with that freight that's coming through our state. So that's the first opportunity for job creation. The second opportunity is what Gene's doing with export. So how do we train our companies, educate our companies on the opportunities that are out there for growing their businesses through export? And I think Dr. Close said it in his presentation that the goal here for companies is to really find someone to buy their products. So if we can open up our markets to those 8 size of times the United States out there, and we can educate our companies on how they can tap into that market, that's going to help develop our companies here in Michigan and grow jobs. And then the third opportunity is when this all takes off and people really recognize the assets we have in Michigan, it really then gives us opportunities to bring companies to Michigan, to have companies want to locate in our state, because really it's the best place to be for what they're trying to do as a company. So that growth, that new growth to Michigan, is really a third opportunity we're going to see to grow and create jobs. So that's what I really wanted to share. I wanted to make sure there was a clear message out there that this is going to be a priority for the state, that transportation, distribution, logistics is a key effort that we're going to be engaged in, that it really fits nicely into what we're trying to do as a state. So I'm excited about it. I know our MDOT team and MDAR team are excited about it. And we're really looking forward to working with all of our partners and really all of you out there to really find the barriers, find our assets, market our state, and really grow the opportunities we see here in this initiative. So thank you.